Welcome to Season 4 of Outstanding Women Leaders, Witty and Wise Conversations. I'm your host, Katie L. Eads, founder and chief owl at Outstanding Women Leaders, Owl Professional Coaching, an organization dedicated to empowering women leaders. Owl is on a mission to host 100 million witty and wise conversations that disrupt the way you think and inspire you to disrupt business as usual in your brain. That disruption begins with a set of rules to guide our conversation today. Number 1, nobody gets to be wrong. Number 2, nobody gets to be right. Number 3, everybody gets to be vulnerable. And my personal favorite, number 4, everything is included. If your dog walks in or barks, the phone rings, it's in the podcast. We do not edit here. This conversation is exactly what it needs to be in this moment in time. We've asked our guests to join us via video to allow us to create authentic connection. Eyes are the window to the soul. You will be seen here. You will be heard. There is space for you. When this conversation comes to a close, I will ask our guests 3 questions. If you've tuned in before, you know what they are. And if you haven't, you don't want to miss them. But enough about me. Today, I'm excited to welcome outstanding women leader, Jennifer Fernandez. Jennifer is an entrepreneur at heart, formerly owning a women's-only fitness center, her own cleaning business for 14 years, where she discovered her passion was helping women through conversation. After the death of her mother and a large weight gain, Jennifer hired a fitness coach, competed in a bodybuilding competition, and pursued her dream of becoming a certified empowerment coach, and is now the proud owner of Infinite Power Coaching. She works with women who feel defeated by their body image, helping them step into radical self-love and reclaim their infinite power. And I've had the pleasure of meeting this radical self-love lady here in Knoxville, where I have so much radical love for this city. Jennifer, thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm excited to share your incredible story with the world.
Oh, thank you so much. It's totally my pleasure, 100%. Very exciting.
What we didn't mention in all of this amazing bio about all these cool things that you've done in your life is that you found out in your early 30s that your life wasn't what you thought it was. So Jennifer, I'm going to let you tell that story of what it was like to be able to get to where you are and where you started. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I was 33 years old, there was a big, like you said, a big reveal to me. I grew up from the age of 11 with the belief that I was a cancer survivor. I, for 2 years of my life, was very sick with cancer. And that created who I was as a woman and as a person as I grew. And when I was 33, it was revealed to me by a lot of different circumstances that my mom had faked and created this illness to get attention. So a lot of people have, and many have not heard of Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Yeah, so bear with me because I honestly haven't really spoken publicly about this very much. And I know now that it is definitely time for me to begin to start doing that and really share my story. And it is time for it to be heard. So,
yeah. So thank you so much for bravely sharing that with us here. Yeah. Take me back to being 11 and having cancer define your life. What was that like for you to be a kid that's a cancer survivor?
Well, I think what stands out the most to me is how I was not a part of the things that most 11-year-olds would be a part of. I wasn't allowed or able to go outside and play with my neighborhood friends. In school, I missed a lot of school, and a lot of the times in school, I was weak and sick and tired, and so I had to spend a lot of time in the nurse's office. And there were times when we would do family activities, and Like one time in particular, I remember a street fair that as a kid, I loved going to like street fairs and festivals. I still love that. So I remember going to the street fair and being so excited that we were going to go. And I was so sick and I was so weak. And my dad literally had to carry me through this event, through the whole festival. And I was so sick and I was so tired. So I have a lot of memories like that in that 2-year span. Also being concerned, at losing my hair at age 11. I would get in the shower and my hair would fall out into the shower, and that at age 11 can be incredibly confusing and scary, especially as you're coming into your young preteen years and you're just starting to get to that point where you really care about how you look and you're worried about how everybody else sees you at that age. So yeah, those are the big things that were impactful.
Yeah. And so you're a kid, and Munchausen by proxy means that your mom was poisoning you. Did you have doctor's appointments? Like, what happens to cause your hair to fall out? Were you receiving radiation or chemo?
Well, the thing is that I will probably never know everything that I was given. But yes, she was definitely poisoning me. She gave me very large doses of antihistamine. And this pill that she gave me very regularly was my pill form chemotherapy. And so that was the story that I was told. So the antihistamine kept me tired and weak. She would put, I know for a fact, syrup of Ipecac in my food and my drinks to make me vomit. And because with chemotherapy, you tend to vomit a lot. And she also would, when I was sleeping at night, use thinning shears to cut my hair, so that when I would wake up and get in the shower, it would come out in big bunches. And I never lost it completely. And supposedly that was because it was pill form chemotherapy, not real chemotherapy. And so, when you're 11 years old, you don't question your parents. It wasn't something that I questioned. And she got our church very heavily involved. And so everybody was involved, and I just believed what everybody told me. And I was told all the time, like continuously over and over, that I was just really, really sick. So I believed it and almost got this mentality of just this very sick little girl.
Thank you so much for sharing. I can't imagine, so I won't, but I imagine you being, 13, 14, 15, 16, you don't even find out until age 33. And I know that when people get childhood cancer, it defines them. It really shapes them and how they see the world. What did that do for you as as you became a high school student and a college age student?
Yeah, let me throw one thing in, that it was right before I turned 13 that I supposedly had beat the cancer and was in remission. And it was approximately about I think it was about 6 months to a year later that my mom began doing it to herself as well. And so then I went from being sick to then watching my mom have cancer. And she did it pretty extremely with herself. She stayed drunk almost all the time and slept and stayed in bed. She would shave her head and just in crazy things. And so it went from being a survivor into mourning the fact that then my mom had this same sickness that I had had. And that was pretty traumatic for me to watch her go through that. And at the time, it really, what I felt was that it helped me to connect to her. And like we had this bond because we were cancer survivors. And that kind of began to create this false belief that I had around my mom. And then it was shortly after her remission that my parents got divorced. And my mom became very promiscuous, she began drinking quite a bit. She was out all the time. There was a lot of partying. There was just a lot of really dysfunctional things happening in our home. And so the reason that I bring all that up is because what I realize is, even though all those terrible dysfunctional things were happening, I had these rose-colored glasses on. I knew that my mom was mentally unstable in a lot of ways, but I didn't know the extent of what it was. And so when I was 33 years old and the truth was revealed to me, those rose-colored glasses fell off. And they crashed pretty hard to the floor. It was pretty eye-opening to me that my whole life had just been not anything that I had expected. And there was so many lies and there was so many things. So it was pretty life-changing experience.
Yeah. As a kid, like that foundation of who we think we are, and then to go through not just you, but your mom, something that's so traumatic and something that you would never wish on your worst enemy. And then to find out that it was all a lie.
Mm-hmm.
How do you start to trust again after finding all these things out?
Well, I think the most important thing that I had to do was trust myself.
Yeah.
I had to start to really believe and trust me through all the things that I went through, not just me, but my siblings. In our childhood with this mentally unstable mother, there was a lot of times when we really couldn't believe or trust anything about ourselves or the things that she said. So before I could even begin to heal, I had to really start to listen to me and understand who I was as a woman and as a person. And even back when I was a young girl, like I really had to connect with that inner child and start to love and respect myself. And that took a long time. I had to go through quite a bit of therapy and different counseling and coaches that I spoke to. And it wasn't until I really got in connection with who I am and really started to love me and accept me, it wasn't then that I could start to forgive her and understand who she was. And during the time, the only thing that I could do at that moment when I found out the truth was completely remove her from the situation, because to keep having her in that situation would have been continually damaging to me, and then possibly, of course, to my own children.
Yeah. Wow. You talk about reconnecting with your inner child and learning to trust yourself. That is radical self-love.
It is.
And I had a guest on last week that talked about your childhood trauma is your adult passion and purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine it takes a pretty radical act to be able to love and trust yourself again after finding out that everything you believed about yourself was a lie.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't easy, and it took me quite some time.
Yeah.
And I'm not even going to say that I'm 100%. Nobody's ever, I think, 100% there. It's a continually growing process and learning and growing. We're never done growing. We're never done reaching, that point where we think that we need to be. So yeah, I mean, it totally is. The life-changing point for me is just really learning to love who I am. And yeah, and then when my mom died in 2016, I hadn't spoken or I hadn't physically seen her in 12 years. I had had some few communications, very small. I kept a lot of boundaries and during that time. And when she died, everything came back up. The depression, which was really surprising to me because I thought I had really overcome and healed and all this stuff. And I was all this amazing, strong, person. And she died and it just, everything crashed again. And I got really, 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 really depressed. It was almost like I had to relearn it and go through that again of what life was like to not have her there. And even though she wasn't in my life, she still dictated so much. And once that was gone, there was a lot more healing that had to be done.
Yeah. So just take me back. So you're 33. You've done a lot of things in your life, right? You've really lived life to the fullest. Man, talk about rewrite your story, which is my thing. You have not only had to rewrite your story, to rewrite your childhood. At the age of 33, as you get this information, where are you at in your life path? What job or what career? Where are you at there?
Age 33 is what.
Yeah.
Well, I was a stay-home mom at that point. I was married and I had two very young kids, two cutie little boys that are now adult men. And so I stayed home, and I prior had worked part-time at a Curves and was working in women's fitness, and starting to discover that I really enjoyed that and that I liked working with women. That's probably where I first started to realize that I was in charge of the weight loss program that Curves offered. And so I got to teach and help women through the weight loss classes and the programs that they had. So that was that was that. And then when I found out when I found out the truth, I got really down and depressed. And my husband at the time, he encouraged me to open my own fitness center. And so I took that on.
Wow.
That was kind of like my saving grace. It really pulled me out of sadness and depression and really gave me something to focus on and put my energy to. And I was able to really deeply connect with some women at that point. And I really began to realize that this was something that I just absolutely loved, is coaching and helping and helping women to see their own love for themselves. And the thing is that I realize now, looking back, is that it's not all about weight loss. It's not all about, so many women have extra weight they want to lose. So many women have they want to get fit, whatever it is, they have all these goals that they want to reach. And what I realize now is back then I began to discover that where that starts at is here inside of our hearts and our self-love and respect for ourselves. And when we can really tap into loving ourselves, then and understanding what it is that we want, and discovering the power and the strength that we have inside of us, then that's when we can start reaching our goals. So that's when that time when I had that fitness center, I was able to do a lot of one-on-one fitness coaching. And I really started to realize where that strength comes from.
And you had so much strength during that time. After your mom died, that you decided to do a bodybuilding competition, which I think is also super incredible. I just wanted to point that out. We'll get there. I know I jumped ahead, but I'm just amazing to me that, and everything that's happening around you, the phrase like, nevertheless, she persisted is kind of like comes up for me. Here you are still being in service to others your whole life, despite knowing that, that your mom isn't who she said she was.
Yeah. Yeah, so after owning this women's fitness center, my marriage began to fall apart, and that's why I went into owning a cleaning business, and because it paid the bills. And I then left my ex-husband and took my kids and got out on my own and worked in my cleaning business to be able to support them. And I was very lucky about a year later to meet this amazing man who is in my life today. And things were going really, really well for us. And we moved in together after dating for 4 years. And that's when my mom died, shortly after that. And that's when everything kind of started to fall apart. For me, I really lost a sense of who I was again at that point, and began climbing back up, began regaining that strength. And this is what I like to call infinite power. This is why I've named my business Infinite Power, because deep inside of every single woman is this incredible strength. We have to listen sometimes. We have to really tap in, but it's always there, and it never goes away. And so I started listening to this little voice of, no, this is not going to defeat you. And I gained a lot of weight during this time. I put on about 40, maybe even 50 pounds, and was really, really uncomfortable. And I remember his name is Dean. He says, well, let's go to the gym. You're so down and you're so upset. And I'm just going right into this whole story, if that's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course you can. I do have a
Okay.
question though, as you're starting to tell it is,
Yeah.
what comes up for me is, as I think about like your mom dying,
Uh-huh.
what are those emotions that, that came up for you that you hadn't quite worked through yet when she died?
Well, I will explain this. I was on my way to see her. I was given the opportunity to go and see her before she died, and I chose to go on a family vacation instead.
Good for
And
you.
yes, thank you. My brother called me and said, I know you've been talking about wanting to see mom again. Now is your time. She's in the hospital, blah, blah, blah. She has all these illnesses. Come and see her. So I remember looking at Dean saying, okay, let's just go. I'm going to go. I mean, remember, I haven't seen her in 12 years. And I was in the car going over, like, in detail, like everything I was going to say and everything I was going to do. And then I got the call that she had passed and I didn't make it. So the first major emotion that I had was regret. Really deep regret of not mending it and closing the door, maybe not so much for her benefit, but for my benefit, before she passed. And the other thing was that I went and spent the weekend there with my family, and the next day after she had passed was actually Easter. And Easter was my mom's favorite holiday. And I went to the church that my mom went to. And I started to discover that my mom had really started to change and redeem herself quite a bit. She was involved in AA, and she was a sponsor to a lot of women, young women around my age, and my sister's age. She made it kind of her life mission to work with these women and help them in their recovery. And people in the church talked incredibly highly of her. Like I had people coming up to me and just like grabbing me and hugging me and telling me, we will love and miss your mom forever. She was so amazing. And she sat by the church and she hugged everybody as they came in. And I remember standing there listening as if I was in a fog, like, who are you talking about? Mm-hmm. Like, my mom was not that person. My mom was angry and mean to a lot of people. She was a liar and she was a manipulator. And so it was very hard for me to hear that. And I think what set in afterwards is I found a lot of letters from her that she had written. She had left them in her Bible. And I'd found these letters, and this was like 12 years worth of letters of her talking to me. And sometimes throughout this 12 years, she had sent some letters, but I never really read them. I usually just threw them away. So I sat with my brother and I read these letters, and I really tapped into what she was saying to me, and how she was begging me for forgiveness and talking about why she did the things that she did. So I think, with all that said, I think what really happened within me is just a lot of guilt and regret of not knowing, and I still even feel that emotion today, of not knowing that side of her. And it was almost as if she was that one for that time before she died. She was this amazing woman that I always wanted her to be for me. And I never got to see that in her. So it was really hard to grieve that and mourn that part.
Yeah.
And also attached with that is trust of myself and her. Because like I said a moment ago, she was a master manipulator. She truly could manipulate the pants and the shoes off of anybody. I'm not even kidding. And so in my mind, I had to kind of get to this part where it was okay that she was good. It was okay that she had been good. And I had to trust that she was, because in my mind, I was like, well, what if she's just lying and manipulating everybody again? So there was a lot of healing. There was a lot of, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Man. So your childhood story is a lie, and then your mom dies, and then it feels like that story is a lie too, because here she is, so loved and helping people.
Yeah, and the real honest truth of it is that there's probably stuff I still don't know.
Sure.
There's probably truths about my mother that I will never know and understand. But that stuff doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter anymore. I've been able to put that down and to forgive her for all of that, and to forgive and love myself for all of that. And so the good thing is that once I was able to do that, I finally have peace. And I don't need to know all of the truth anymore. All I need to know is that it wasn't about me. It was about her and the trauma that she had. And I'm also a very firm believer that everything happens for a reason. And part of the things that I have endured and gone through is to help me to become what I am meant to become and what I am becoming now.
Yeah. And along with everything happens for a reason, sometimes the reason is that your mom's sick. Like she was a sick person.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember a therapist telling me, well, the reason that happened is because no one put a lock on the door. And I was like, oh, that's a good point. Like, yes, it shaped me and led me to where I am. But sometimes the reason is the person. And yeah. Talk about radical self-love. Not only are you radically loving yourself, but you're radically forgiving, and that forgiveness is such an infinite power. So to see all of your business and what you're doing is it ties so nicely to what your experiences are and your ability to heal and to help others achieve. Yeah. So you're in this depression. I will tell you that I smoked cigarettes for a year when my mom died. Wasn't a smoker before that. And I drank a lot when my mom died after work. I would have a couple glasses of bourbon, maybe 3 or 4. Usually I'm a 2-glass person. I don't even drink bourbon anymore, but deaths of moms are hard. And you have gained this weight and you have this amazing man in your life to support you. I had a bunch of shitty men in my life at the time. That's right. I had a bunch. And you started going to the gym. And yeah, tell me a little bit more about, how you get out of this hole that your mom's created and buried you in.
Well, the funny thing is when I look back at this time is I had been to the gym many times, but this time something was triggered differently in me.
Mhm.
I was, like I said, had gained a lot of weight, and I was kind of on the other side. So there's two sides of this gym. There's the big, huge weight room with all the free weights and the big muscle machines, right? And then there's the other machines that are kind of more like hydraulics and weight stacks and stuff like that. And I kind of stayed to that side because it was a little bit easier and it wasn't as intimidating. But I can remember being in this room and looking over at the other side and like tapping Dean on the shoulder and saying, I need to get in there. Like, I need to understand what that is and how to lift like that. And he was like, why? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I have this desire to start tapping into that.
Mhm.
And so I did. I just started, we started going over there and lifting. And the most amazing thing is one of my friends, she and I had not seen each other in a long time. And all of a sudden on Facebook, I started to see pictures of her losing weight and working out. And she was getting all cut and fit, and her muscles were like popping out of her back while she was doing the weight machines. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is she doing? And I remembered from our conversations with her and how unhappy she had been in her body. And so it was so inspiring to me that she was actually doing something about it. So I started reaching out to her, and to see that she was lifting weights, which is something that was becoming a bigger and bigger interest for me, was really exciting. And so I did reach out to her, and she started sharing with me what she was doing. And she told me, she said, you need to go to this place and start talking to them. They are bodybuilding fitness coaches, and they will help you. And I had probably 50 pounds to lose at that time before I could even get on stage. And that didn't intimidate me. That didn't scare me. I just had this really strong passion and desire of change. And I think it was kind of like shedding. When I look back at it now, it's like shedding the feelings and the emotions. Like, this was a way for me to break free of all my past and all the negativity that I had carried and held for so long in that story. It was like recarving myself. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
And so for a year, I went on a pretty strict regimen, and I worked out very, very heavily. And I lost close to 60 pounds. And my coaches, even though this is probably the most amazing part, is even though I didn't feel like I was quite ready to get on stage because it was my first year and I didn't look quite like everybody else, they wanted me to tell my story, and they wanted me to get on stage and show what I had accomplished. And so I did. I put on a very small, tiny bikini, and I still had a little loose skin and some stretch marks and wrinkles around my tummy and on my arms. And I wasn't as cut and built out as everybody else, but it was the most amazing experience of my life so far, besides having children.
Mm.
But it was, all my nerves were gone. I got up there. I did several poses. I did a personalized routine to the song, Fight Song. You know that song, Fight? This is my fight song.
Oh yeah, I got divorced when that song came out. That song is my song too.
Yes, that's my theme song.
Yeah.
So I did this really amazing, powerful routine to that on stage. And then in the end, my coaches surprised me, and they put up my before picture. I didn't know they were going to do this. And they had me come out, and they awarded me this really amazing sword, which is a common award in bodybuilding. It's a big deal if you can win a sword, if you can be given a sword. So they awarded me the sword, and they said that I was the biggest loser, pretty much. I had lost and overcome the most. And yeah, that was a very powerful, incredible experience. And that is probably where I started to really understand what my infinite power was really about and how strong I was as a woman. And I also started to realize that if I had that in me, then so many other women do too.
Yeah. For women listening, if you've never lifted weights, there's something so empowering
Yeah.
about being able to lift heavy. And it's not
Yeah.
even like lifting it over your head, like even a deadlifting weight where you're using that great booty and hamstrings and all those great muscles that we have to lift large amounts of weight. It's exciting. You could see you light up as you talked about lifting the weights and wanting to go over there. And it
Oh yeah.
becomes, for me, I know it became less about losing weight. Like the losing weight for me became a byproduct of just wanting to see the numbers go up on the weight plates on my bar.
Yes. Yes, because it's almost like this belief that we have, like this limited belief that we have is, oh, I can't do that. I'm a girl. Or I can't do that because society says that muscles are not pretty on a woman. And so for me, it was like breaking through past that. Like, no, that's not true. I'm going to prove you wrong. It's like, I'm going to lift and I'm going to become beautiful and strong and sexy. And, that's what it was. And the stronger I got, and the more I was able to lift, the stronger I got inside too.
Yeah. Amazing story. And so you
Thank you.
fast forward to today and you are an empowerment coach for women. You are walking radical self-love. You are walking infinite power. You have this incredible story. What is your superpower in all of this?
I really think that my superpower is a couple of different things. Number one, really being able to listen and connect and understand, listening, connecting and understanding what women have to say, and then connecting in the emotions and really having that deep connection and hearing what it is that they really want, and then helping them to take the steps to achieving that.
What's your purpose?
Well, my purpose is to speak my truth, but also to help women speak theirs as well.
I'm a teacher, so I so believe in modeling and we empower others to speak their truth and we speak our own. Thank you so much for bravely sharing what's a very painful story to tell. So thank you for that. And thank you for speaking your truth because people need to hear it. As we wrap up today, what's next for you?
Well, I am taking some steps to start becoming a public speaker, and going to be looking for venues where I can start sharing my story more. And also, there's definitely a book in the works of my life. And it's probably going to be a book more about me and my mom. Yeah, so that's what's next.
Very cool.
And continuing to build my coaching business.
Yeah. Where can people find you online and connect with you?
I have a funnel page, and that is at infinitepowercoaching.biz, and you can go and learn more about my business there. And you can also connect with me personally and get on my calendar. I do offer 30-minute coaching sessions as a gift so that we can get to know each other a little bit. So you can do that there. Another is that I have a Facebook group that can be joined, and you can learn a lot about my business and get a lot of tips around self-love and healthy eating and stuff like that. And that is Body Positive Coaching for Women on Facebook.
All right. And before we wrap up, I always give our guests the last word. What is it that you want to share with all the women listening before we go today?
I think the biggest thing is that no matter what it is that you feel, no matter how you see yourself in the mirror, no matter what your thoughts are on a daily basis about your body and your strength, I want you to remember that there is a strength and a power inside of you.